Can you imagine being 18 years old, you were in your senior year of high school, getting ready for college, going to prom, all of that stuff? Now imagine being 18 years old, thrown on the street, completely fending for yourself. That's what happens when youth age out of foster care at 18 years old. So, in a recent study, 19-year-old youth in Illinois who chose to remain in foster care were better off than the foster care who remained in Wisconsin and aged out at 18. So they had a lot better health and mental services, and they experienced less economic hardships. So I'm Ava, and this is Jessica, and we're going to be talking about aging out of the foster care system. So here are some scary statistics about aging out of the foster care system. So an estimated 2,000 young people age out of the foster care system every year. Nearly 40% of that number become homeless. So the percentage of children who age out of the foster care system with any sort of disability, even just a mental disability, is 25%. Children with diagnosed disabilities of any kind, including learning disability, are twice as likely to age out of the foster care system. So this graph here shows some scary facts about aging out. So only 54% will earn their high school diploma, 1 in 5 will be homeless within a year, less than 3% will earn a bachelor's degree, 1 in 4 will be incarcerated within 2 years, 71% of women will be pregnant by the age of 21, and 50% will be unemployed by age 24. So here's some statistics about the Indiana youth in foster care. So there is an estimated 9,000 children in foster care in Indiana. Over 5,000 of Indiana's foster care, is ages 14 plus. So in Vanderburgh County, there are 857 children in foster care, and there's only 150 foster care homes. So the cost of foster care, the average maintenance per year is over $19,000. So state and federal expenditures total over $4.3 billion. So if we're spending this much money on foster care, why don't we make sure that the kids are actually getting something out of it?
So the cost of doing nothing, kind of like what Ava said, if we just sit back and continue to not do anything, to not help the teens, we're going to spend roughly $7.8 billion in total cost over all of the aged out teens foster's lifetime. So there's about 26,000 that age out every year. Again, over the course of the lifetime, it's around 300,000. That's an average, so some could be more, some could be less. That, again, is a lifetime cost. So the problem pain statement that we're running into is the foster system forces aged out teens out of their homes way too fast, and they are not prepared to go into the real world, which leads to an increase in homelessness, unemployment, drug use, and other life issues. So our solution, we came up with Prepare First. Prepare First will be a series of meetings that are done with the kid and their parent together. They will provide housing and educational support for the aging out fosters. In these meetings, we will teach financial skills and life skills to ease the transition whenever they do age out of their house and they have to go on and fend for themselves. Also, we will provide medical aid, which is physical and emotional support. It's going to be hard for these teens to kind of get out and go out of their house. If they do move out from their foster homes, they're not going to have any other family. They're not really going to know what to do, how to react to all the hardships and stuff that they come across. So we want to make sure that that's something that we address with them. And then we also want to partner with local businesses to create employment opportunities. If we make sure that these fosters have a job or somewhere that they can turn to, that can help the rates that we're going against. So how are we different? So there are two other communities or resources that we found that are kind of similar to what we want to do with Prepare First, but are a little bit different. IDE Extended Foster Care, it's a title that was passed a few years ago that allowed teens to stay with their foster parents throughout college or trade school. And then Covenant House, which is our primary resource. So they allow education. It's a housing opportunity as well because they shelter around 80,000 kids per year. And in there they also kind of teach them some money skills and life skills, but not what we want to do with Prepare First. Prepare First is it's going to rely on some of the housing and education and stuff that Covenant and IDE Extended Care is going to be using, but we also want to extend that a little bit further. So we want to make sure that we offer employment opportunities. So we want to teach them how to apply for jobs, tell them how to fill out a resume. That way, it makes applying for jobs a little bit easier for them. And then again, the medical aid, emotional support, we want to make sure they have someone to lean on, someone to talk to whenever they need help or just any questions on how to do things. And then also the foster parents. So we want to make sure that we are doing these meetings with the parents and the kids, because the parents are going to be the main resource for these kids. So how do the meetings work? They will be taking place at the Covenant House, and then some of them will also still be taking place at the EVSC, so local high schools and stuff throughout the community. We will begin the classes around the age of 15 because we feel like the kids will be able to comprehend and understand it around that age. They will also be able to apply this to their daily life and things like that. The curriculum will consist of money management, budgeting, again, applying for jobs, how to apply, creating a resume, questions and stuff to ask during the interviews. And then we will also be partnering with local businesses to kind of get their foot in the door. That way they have a job that they can get. So our key partners, again, it's going to be EVSC, just because that's where we're going to be hosting some of the meetings. They're going to be creating some of our lesson plans, our educational platforms. The Department of Child Services, just because that's where the social workers and caseworkers are. Foster Care Success, they create educational platforms as well. And then the Covenant House, so they are one of, again, our primary resources. They're going to be hosting the meetings using their caseworkers, their volunteers, so they're going to be our main catch to making sure Prepare First is effective. Key activities, again, creating lesson plans, established meeting and locations, because we've got to have somewhere to host these meetings. Again, key resources are going to be the platforms. We've got to know what we're teaching and how we're going to teach them. The curriculum consultants, we've got to meet with somebody to understand and to go over what we're going to be teaching these teens and how we're going to make it an effective meeting. We're going to have some strategic partners and volunteers to make this successful. And then we're also going to have a website. That way we can kind of get the word out there to the foster parents.
So for our customer relationship, we kind of want to make a few classes just to kind of get a feel for what we want to do. And then we want to get immediate feedback from those, figure out what type of topics we really want to focus on. So we want to do some volunteers for that, just to see how the classes go and run. And so for our customer channels, we really want to focus on the EVSC, because the kids are of course going to be schooled there, and that can get our word out. And also Covenant House, because all the kids are in their care, they can get the word out there to take our classes. So our customer segment is, of course, the foster care youth. That's who we're primarily focusing this on. And we also talked about the foster parents, because we do want them to be a part of this as well, because we find that very important. We also want the DCFS caseworkers to be a part of this, because they can get our word out when they're going through all the cases. And also the Evansville and Indiana community. That's very important, and it really kind of pulls us all together. So for our revenue, we do want to do a couple grants. We were looking at the Children's Bureau, because they focus on fostering and aging out. The Annie E. Casey Foundation, as well as the Jason Hayes Foundation, both focus on aging out of the foster care system. So we just kind of want you to think back to, what if this was you? What if this was a family member? What if this was a sibling? And how would you prepare for this?